You're listening to the VTZone.com's weekly Scoutcast. Everything Hokies. And now here's publisher Jason Stamm.
Welcome to another edition of the VTZone.com Scoutcast. I am publisher Jason Stamm. A couple days removed from a big loss to Georgia Tech, but we're here to get us back on track. And I'll be honest, this is kind of an abridged version. We did a version with Derek Skip Hopkins. Had some technical difficulties, so Doug Bowman and I are going to bring this one home. Doug, how are things going on your end?
They're going well. Hanging in there. Winter's finally here, so...
So hopefully I can get you and Skip on the same podcast next week.
We're just trying to do one thing at a time here.
Well, because we have to keep up. I don't want to get us taken off of iHeart. It took us a while to get on. I don't want to get us off of iHeartRadio now.
Right.
We have to keep up appearances.
I'll talk to my guys.
So, Doug, I don't want to talk about it too much because we're a little bit removed now. But let's talk just real quick on Georgia Tech. What are some thoughts on what happened? What went wrong for the Hokies there?
Just about everything for about most of the game. Just from the very first kickoff, you fumbled the kickoff, and that just kind of set everything in motion. And you had 2 picks from Evans, a drop pass from Ford, a fumble from Bucky Hodges, and that's those missed opportunities. And I guess 3 of them were technically, 4 turnovers. Hadn't seen that since Tennessee, and once again it resulted in a loss.
Yeah, and kind of looking back at stuff, I mentioned it in a couple of things I think we did after the game on Saturday, and mentioned it again with some of the stuff today. But if you look at the overall numbers, they don't look terrible for Virginia Tech. But a lot of it came in. I don't know if I want to call it garbage time, but they were already.
It was garbage time.
Was it garbage time? Okay. Well, if you'll call it garbage time, then we'll go with that. But, they had 230 yards through 3 quarters, then 217 in the fourth quarter when they were already down, 30-7. So, how much of a concern, and that was something that Coach Fuente was asked on Monday, how much of a concern is that offense, Doug? Because, they're putting up some yards overall still, but, if you look at take away that fourth quarter, 7 quarters there, they had a total of, 24 points.
Yeah. Definitely the last 2 games have been a stark contrast from what they were doing against Pittsburgh and Miami. I think particularly the last 2 games are concerning, considering the numbers that teams like Duke and the teams that played Duke and Georgia Tech were putting up. That's a Georgia Tech defense that got smoked by North Carolina and Duke in the last 2 weeks. And, Virginia Tech had 7 points in the fourth quarter. While other teams were running up massive amounts of yards and points on them, Virginia Tech just couldn't get anything going. So I think you definitely have to be concerned, whether it's fatigue or injuries or, other teams figuring out the Virginia Tech offense. I think, 24 against Duke, and then I guess you can call it 20 against Georgia Tech, but I think 7 or 14 is more appropriate. So definitely a concern in terms of where the offense was early in the year, and now we're looking at it with 2 weeks to go, and there's some hiccups.
So even, real quick on defense, Doug, are you I asked Skip about it, and this is why I really wish, our version we did with Skip would have worked, because Skip had some pretty good stuff to say. He was a guy that went against that option so many times, and I know he was talking about it's more gap assignment and sticking to your lanes, I guess, really, and they just didn't do it. They acted so many times like they hadn't seen that option before. So again, they're not, unless they barring somehow, which I think the odds are slim to none that they face an academy, one of the service academies in a bowl game. They're not going to see that option offense the rest of the season. So can we throw that out, or are there genuine concerns with that defense?
I think there's genuine concern just based on the injury level. This is a defense that we knew, as a team overall, that we knew throughout the season was just pretty thin on depth. I mean, they got talent, at the starting spots, but you get guys out there playing at less than 100%, and I think you're going to have some trouble there. And we saw that kind of creep up, late against Duke and obviously against Pittsburgh. We'll throw out that Miami game. I think the Thursday night atmosphere kind of buoyed them there, but I mean, there's been instances when they needed to get stops and they just couldn't get off the field. And I think you can go back to that Syracuse game as kind of the start when Virginia Tech got real banged up, and they just haven't been the same defense since then. And I mean, this was a Georgia Tech team playing without not just their starting quarterback, but their star. I mean, losing Justin Thomas would have been like Virginia Tech losing Jared Evans, and they didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, I mean, that was if Justin Thomas had been playing, I think you would have looked at this game a lot differently. But having a backup who had, I mean, I tallied it up, and again, in one of our stories over the last couple days, but having somebody who had that little experience in there that just shredded them, I think that's got to be some concern for Bud Foster. So. Doug, looking ahead now, they got Notre Dame this week, and that was something that a lot of these guys were asked on Monday in the presser. Justin Fuente was asked. This is one of those that it's you look at it and you think it's kind of awkward timing. I mean, they've got one game left. They got to wait 2 weeks to try to clinch the division again. Notre Dame's kind of in the way. So, is this a game that is kind of weirdly placed? Is it something that could throw them off? What do you think of even the timing of playing a game like this, especially when Notre Dame is, just fighting to get into a bowl?
It's a weird game because of where the teams are at in terms of the season. If Notre Dame was supposed to be a pretty darn good team this year, and 3 or 4 weeks ago, Virginia Tech was kind of on this fringe of getting involved in the top 15 there. And, I mean, if this is a game between two top 20 programs or two top 15 teams, I mean, this is a big game, and nobody's talking about how awkward it is just because of the national implications. But now that Notre Dame's kind of a dumpster fire, and Virginia Tech's coming off a loss to Georgia Tech, and just basically the only game that matters right now is EVA. Yeah, it's definitely weird, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what the motivation level is in terms of, how do they respond if Notre Dame jumps out early, and if things get out of hand, do you start kind of resting players? Because if you're down, 4 scores in the second half, is it really worth it to keep running your guys out there when you have a must-win game next week? So it'll be interesting to see what the game plan is and the mindset is. I guess for both teams, but Notre Dame's kind of been dealing with a mess for the greater portion of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to a source at Notre Dame that I've got kind of within the team, who was telling me that they feel like they're finally starting to play with some confidence. They've been kind of waiting on it all year. They're finally starting to get there a little bit. And they told me it flat out that it's been pretty brutal all season going through everything, but I think they told me that NC State was basically a disaster, but they feel like they're getting some confidence, some cohesiveness. But going into this game, Doug, I mean, what concerns you most?
I think the Virginia Tech defense against the Notre Dame offense. I mean, you can pinpoint all the problems that Notre Dame's obviously had, but at the end of the day, they still got a really darn good quarterback and a lot of talent at running back and wide receiver. That could make this one could turn into a shootout if Virginia Tech's defense continues to struggle, particularly playing at Notre Dame. I think that's, with Notre Dame obviously coming off, I think a 44-6 win over Army will build some confidence there. And I guess they're playing for bowl eligibility as well, so they got a lot. I think they probably have more to play for than Virginia Tech really does in this game.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's going to be tough for Virginia Tech not to overlook this, because Notre Dame has been not good all year. And now they've finally gotten to where they're actually playing. Of course, they got to be. They'd have to turn around and win at USC next week, so they still got a long way to go. But yeah, I think it's a good point. They big time have way more to play for.
You could, I guess, kind of compare it to Virginia Tech I guess it was last year, 2 years ago, and they were, they had to win 2 out of 3 or the final 2 to qualify for a bowl, and I mean that kind of galvanized the team to extend that bowl streak, and I think Notre Dame's probably kind of feeling that same motivation to at least set themselves up with a chance to do it. So, I mean, Deshaun Kaiser's really, really, really good. So, I mean, they obviously had their issues earlier this year. I think defensively particularly, but I don't think offense is an issue for them.
Yeah, and we're sending our friend Max Esterhazen up there to brave the elements because I know you tweeted it out, Doug. It's going to be...
it looks like a great day for some football.
I know. Somebody told me that they heard it was supposed to be up to like 30, 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts off the lake.
Anytime the forecast has rain and snow in it at the exact same time, you can get beautiful weather.
That's going to be a nasty, nasty game. And, Virginia Tech played in a hurricane, but they didn't play. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be sleet. They could have sleet during the game. That would not surprise me whatsoever. So it could get a little icy.
Yeah, I mean, it was the hurricane. It was pretty good temperatures for.
It was almost 70 degrees
temperatures.
Still.
Yeah, I mean, it was ideal for a tropical storm, but I don't think you'd have that same kind of anticipation playing an unranked team in snow flurries with 40-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see how that affects things. They've, might as well just add it to the list of types of weather. Of course, they've been inside in the dome. They've been in cold now, and will be in cold, sleet, been in hurricane. Why not add this to it?
I mean, it
should
be fun.
Yeah, it's one of those, again, I'm glad that I'm not going to be at least out in the elements for.
Yeah. Hopefully for Max they have a closed press box.
I think they do. It sounds like it's smaller, but they have a closed press box. So,
2016, everybody should have closed press boxes.
Yeah. There's a few. Georgia Tech and UVA are both open.
Well,
so the UVA is always a fun one because when they play up there right after Thanksgiving, a couple days after Thanksgiving, it can be cold. I mean, last year actually wasn't that bad, but 2 years ago it was quite cold.
I bet.
Doug, let's get to some recruiting real quick. So, big weekend as far as a lot of guys coming in to visit. We had the trio from Trinity Christian come in. They had a younger teammate. Yeah, they had a younger teammate who committed last week, Chamari Connor, who looks and sounds to me like could be a steal at this point. Really early there, but I think could be. I mean, the guy's got like 20 offers. I mean, he's got a pretty good offer list. Any concern though with those guys that came in for visits? I feel like a lot of times we look too much into each game or each performance. Sometimes these guys say they just want to see the atmosphere. Overall, I mean, is it more just a good thing to get that amount of top talent into Blacksburg?
Yeah, I think obviously a big win would have obviously gives you a little bit extra there, but just getting them on campus and I think anytime you can get guys to come for a game and just to see what it's like, for Virginia Tech in particular has a chance to really sell themselves, right around opening kickoff. So, it looked like a pretty solid day overall, except for the game. So, you get them experience to Blacksburg and the game day weekend and things, and I think it probably still had a positive impact. But yeah, being down 30-7 in the fourth quarter probably didn't exactly help.
Well, I will say I could tell, Doug, that those Florida guys were feeling quite cold by the end of that game. I mean, I think when I left, it was down to about 36, 37. So not like, obviously it gets much colder than that, but for the Florida guys who are sitting out there, they were quite cold. They were shivering a little bit.
I'm sure it's been a while. But, I mean, Sean Wade's committed to Ohio State, so,
That's true, yeah. He's already committed to play somewhere cold, so...
he don't...
Colder.
It obviously doesn't affect him.
Yeah, so. And I mean, we're going to be having tons of updates on those guys over the coming days. We've had a few updates already. I know I got hold of... had an update on Tariq Castro Fields last night, so it sounds like it went well there. We had some on Marquise Bell. Him and Iverson Clement were kind of a surprise. They visited. Our friend Brian Doan had some updates there. I know Michael Clark's going to be catching up with a lot of the Carolina guys and Virginia guys. A few of those I think it would be maybe a little tougher to get some updates on. Dylan Rivers, for instance, I don't think he's doing a lot of talking. Kind of silent after he's been. I don't know how much he wants people to know. He was kind of ducking me, Doug. He wasn't really wanting his photo taken.
When you're committed somewhere else, I don't think that's on the list of things to do at another school.
Yeah. Now his girlfriend goes to Virginia Tech, so there's obviously reason for him to be there. But it was one of those I had to kind of pull up.
You on the field too?
I had to TMZ him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to make sure to get one while he wasn't looking.
Yeah.
But lots of updates coming on those guys. Basketball, we'll be having some updates. I had one Monday afternoon on looks like another big post player target. So, obviously got the two signed. They're official now. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Wabissa Bede. Those guys are big time. Now they just need to get a post.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been talking about here for the last, month or 2 months, or actually probably 3 years. So yeah, I mean, this is, I guess it kind of dies down now, and then you kind of jump into the leftovers here heading into the spring. So we'll see.
Well, if there's any solace, Doug, I will say that I don't know if you noticed, but in looking over some previews today. Just kind of looking at other teams, Villanova actually has it worse than Virginia Tech does. They don't have a guy over 6'7".
And they won a national championship last year.
Yep. I mean...
So, what does
anybody
know? Oh, you don't need tall people in basketball games.
It sounds like they were really counting on Amari Spellman, who's a true freshman. Doesn't look like he may not be eligible to play all season, so I think that's kind of put him behind. Of course, they play a little up-tempo and small anyway, but I think it just goes to show that maybe there's some hope that they can still Virginia Tech can still have some success even going small. Shifting into basketball a little bit, Doug. What did you think of
the 1-0
Hokies? Yeah, 1-0 to open, but what did you think of Hadim C? This is a guy that I still think he's a little raw, but I don't know if you heard Buzz's comments after the game. He said he was one of the more polished
I wanted
big
to
guys.
talk about that. Where did that come from? This was totally downplayed, and then one game, and he's the most polished, and he's talking about having to temper expectations for the kid. And
yeah, I didn't see that one coming at all.
This is us talking the whole preseason about Blackshear's injury being huge, and all of a sudden he pulls the most polished big man he's ever coached into Blackshear starting his spot. So that was a surprise, and
How much of that, though, is just Buzz trying to build up, Hadim C? I mean, the kid, obviously, he's going to have to play this year. We've talked about that. So is this kind of to build him up some? I not to discredit Buzz, but I don't think he's the most polished big man I've seen.
I mean, I don't think Buzz is the kind of guy to just offer praise without you earning it. So,
does that change your mind, though? If he's, if turns out to be that good?
If that's what Buzz is saying, then I think that's. I mean, yeah. If he's thinking he's the best, most polished big man ever, and you got to temper expectations, so he doesn't think he's so good. I mean, that's big time stuff. And for a team that we were talking about not having a center, and you're playing Seth Leday and his reportedly 6'7" for him there. I mean, if he's size the guy, we're ready to rock.
So, Doug, I'm thinking though, if Buzz can turn him into every bit that he's talked him up to be, that's got to be one of the best coaching jobs ever. Like, not to discount Hadim that bad, but I just really, after watching him, and after talking to all of our evaluators who have seen him multiple times at Oak Hill, it's not like nobody saw him. He was at Oak Hill,
yeah.
So of course people were seeing him, but he didn't have that many offers, and all I kept hearing was what a project he was. So.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking.
Man, that could be a hell of a coaching
job. I wrote in my season preview that they were going to have to try and cobble together like 10 or 15 minutes between him and Johnny Hamilton. And
well, if Johnny Hamilton didn't get in the game till about 4 minutes to play.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I like his nickname a lot too, Dream.
No, Dream.
I like that a lot too. I think big things are in store for him, and it seems like a lot sooner than anybody expected.
So, other than Hadim, though, Doug, I mean, did the first game go about as you expected, or any surprises from that?
I think the surprise was we figured out what happened to Zach Ledee, and and
a cut.
It appeared
he basically knocked heads with somebody.
It appears that it was not a big deal. But I mean, yeah, just about what he expected. I mean, they played a bad team and took care of business. So I think they have a couple more of those coming up here. High Point and VMI, and then we'll get into that Thanksgiving break tournament where you'll start. I think they play Michigan right after that too, right?
Yes, they turn around and play them 2 days after playing. I mean, they'll play
they're not
games out there in Anaheim.
They're not even flying back to Blacksburg. They're going right to Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point because they just turn around. They literally be in Blacksburg for 12 hours or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, you get your opportunity to kind of get your legs under him and see if Dream can start putting up some big numbers.
Are you just going to start referring to him as Dream, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Dream, for sure.
So,
it wasn't that Hakeem Olajuwon's...
Yeah, Hakeem the Dream.
Yeah, and so we're talking about tempering expectations for him, and then we're going to put Hakeem Olajuwon's nickname on him?
Well, no, I will say that, though. Buzz did say it was kind of fun. That was the best part of the whole presser is that, he said that Hadim thinks that's why he calls him Dream, and then Buzz said it's because he can't pronounce his name. And so it's to get him. It's close enough.
Okay, that's fair. But
so, not to temper Dream's expectations here, but I think that also goes into it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you get a couple more warm-up games and then go into the big stuff, and we'll figure something out here by, I guess the first week in December is when that little stretch of games will wrap up.
Yeah. Doug, you have a shout-out for us this week?
Sure. I'm going to shout out this time of the sports calendar.
There you go.
Kind of the intersection of the end of the college football season, and you saw what happened this weekend with that, and then the start of college basketball, and it's a fun time.
I like it. Yeah,
always something.
Bowl season is always one of my favorites. Bowl season, and I still don't think it's the NCAA tournament is still my favorite time of year. That first weekend, best time of the year.
Yeah,
it's really hard for me to get anything done because I just want to watch every game.
Exactly, but over the next 2 months here, 2 months we'll get college basketball ramping up, college football winding down, the NFL. You might start having a good game or two every week, and start meaning some things. So it's one of those good times, like the NCAA tournament time. You go NCAA tournament, and then you get the playoffs starting in NBA, NHL. You get the MLB starting. You get the Masters on. These are another competition between months on the calendar, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to give my shout out to kind of going with you mentioned it with you kind of went with overlap there with the sports, but I've got to go specifically with the underdogs this weekend. Like, what a weekend for underdogs. I know Virginia's going to be one of those, but for 2, 3, and 4 to go down, and that's not counting number 9, Virginia Tech at 14, North Carolina at 17. I feel like I'm missing
Number 8
somebody.
and A&M at 8 and Auburn at 9.
Yep, 8 and 9. So you had 5 of the top 10 go down.
Yeah, I mean,
and we'll be waiting to see how that affects the college football playoff. The rankings come out here on Tuesday night.
It would have, Virginia Tech seems like they missed a little opportunity there.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
I think if
top
you're,
10.
I mean, they would have been. I don't know if they would have gotten top 10. I don't think any of those top 5 teams. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of those top 5 teams are all very far. But with 8 and 9 losing, and obviously they liked what they saw out of Tech better than the AP or the coaches poll. But I mean, another win against Notre Dame this week, and you're definitely in the top 10 with one game to play, and then Clemson waiting for you. So, missed opportunity to have a little top 10 versus top 10 game there at the end of the season.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but I will say, kind of sending us out here, we will have Max Esterhazen braving the sleet, the rain, the snow, whatever ends up falling precipitation-wise. Max will be there. Of course, the game will be on NBC for those who obviously want to watch, but I know he'll be there, so you can follow along with the chat. I'll be chiming in, so we'll have plenty of covers there. Our Notre Dame site, Irish Illustrated, one of the best sites on the Scout Network, so definitely check them out for anything you want to know about Notre Dame. I'll be at the game tonight against High Point. Again, Doug said at VMI this weekend, so I'll be there for coverage of that. So lots coming, very busy week, very busy time, as Doug alluded to, with the 2 sports overlapping. Plenty of stuff coming. So for Doug Bowman, I'm Jason Stam. Thank you for checking us out this week, and we'll see you back here next week.